Welcome back to another video on full-time purpose. Victor and I are here today to share with you 3 things that make killer content so that you get more views, more engagement, and more subscribers. We're going to share with you ways that we have made content that appeals to a large amount of people, plus helps keep people around and engaged with what we have to share. So you may want to excuse us because we're twinsies today. Yay! we both came out of we're in Sedona right now, which is part of the benefit of us having online businesses. We get to travel and work from wherever we go. So we came to Sedona. We woke up this morning to get some stuff done, and when I came up, we both came out of our room wearing the exact same thing. We're like, oh, one of us is gonna have to go change. But we're like, you know what? Who cares? A lot of the people we're not gonna see here again anyway. So we'll be twinsies. So we want to share with you today the ways that we create content that is engaging. And the first one that we want to share with you has to do with something that I've really understood, especially because I've been daily on YouTube for a long time now. And being daily on YouTube, it's like, how do you come up with new content every single day? And some people even ask me, I get a lot of actually other YouTubers that ask me too, like, how do you daily? Like, it just doesn't, how do you come up with a new idea every day? This is something I've told a lot of people before. More important than what you are talking about is how you feel about what you talk about. Now, the reason I say that is I used to tell people, may even told you when we were first talking about it, I can't remember, but I was like, people are connecting to a feeling. They're connecting to an emotion underneath what I say. And even if it's a very similar idea, like I have set 500 to 700 videos on my YouTube channel. A lot of them are on the law of attraction. How many videos can you make on the law of attraction? But what I've been able to do is get a little bit different takes on each one that give a little bit new perspective, but also I understand that it's an energy that people connect to. So as long as I'm passionate about it, that translates through. So I focus more on the connection. I focus more on the feeling, and by doing that, it's contagious, and people feel into it. So that's been always my message to people is don't focus on the content and what you're talking about. Obviously, you want that to be good, but also mainly focus on the feeling, because when you're in that state, the content comes anyways. Many times I'm in the state and just ideas kind of start coming to me because I'm in a flow state. So that's the first thing that I would say around this whole understanding content is don't overthink it. Focus more on the feeling about it. And that's why we always recommend you find something you're passionate about, because when you're passionate about it, it just comes naturally. You don't have to try hard, and it's something that just kind of flows. And that feeling of you being in your passion is contagious. Other people feel it, and it helps as well. So it's something that's often overlooked, but nonetheless very powerful. Did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. It's like, I just want to kind of reaffirm what he was saying. It's like a mental hack almost, rather than I need to convey information that will be perceived as enjoyable, as I need to come to the video in a good mood, in a positive mood. This one of the guys I follow, Brendan Bouchard, he has a thing that in fact I want to say he writes it like on the door frame or something, but he always has this like mantra that he associates like walking to the door and getting on this. He's a speaker, he gets on stage, and he always basically, when he walks through that door, he imagines in his mind, bring the joy.
I've heard him say that.
Bring the joy. He has his, not remember all the lines, not input good information. Is bring the joy, bring the good mood, bring your good vibes. And for one, as he said, it'll allow you to tap into the information naturally, but people will like how they feel when they watch you. And that is what really gives you that sort of magnetic presence, is that when you're coming from a good place, it's contagious energetically.
Yep.
And it allows you to have a couple little errors there, and maybe not say things so perfectly with your content because people just feel good around you.
Yeah. So the second one is kind of similar, but it has to do with understanding a flow state. And when you start to prime yourself to get into a flow state, which comes with repetition. I've made daily videos for about 1.5 years now, and every day I get in front of the camera, I get into a flow state, and that flow state will normally carry a lot of what I do, and that's what really makes it easy for the content to come through. And the hack that we have for that is to start to prime yourself to get into a flow state more often. There's certain things you can do. Something that there's like a phrase we each say in the beginning of our videos. I say, my name's Aaron, I help people expand their consciousness, and I do this little hand gesture. That gets me into a flow state. And Victor has his, which is help people navigate through the spiritual awakening. Similar thing, it gets them into a flow state. And when we do this, we've done so many videos that it just patterns us into getting into the flow state, which then allows that feeling to come through like we talked about in the first one, but it also allows us to just kind of tap into more of who we are, the message that we have. And that's something that's made it easy. One little other hack we'll kind of add this to this as well is, I've mentioned this to a lot of people and it works really well, is before you go to bed at night, write down the title of your video for the next day. And the reason you do that is because when you go to bed at night, it's almost like your subconscious mind gets the content ready. It kind of knows what it's going to say. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm just ready to go. That's my trick. That's one of the hacks. That's something that I think will help you to tap into that flow state, because it's almost like you just trust the information to come through. You trust yourself to tap into that flow. So that's something that's helped, I know both of us in a certain way do that with videos and everything to get into that flow state. I know you have a lot of hacks for your flow state.
Yeah, well, what I'm going to do is, I know sometimes you might be hearing the flow state, and it might seem like this elusive thing that only some people have. Everybody has a flow state. And the key is to, like, become aware of it when you're in it so that you can get into it more often and then associate it with your content. Like, I would hear it just talking to, like, my wife, for example. She gets into a flow state when she's talking about one of the books she's reading. It's just because that's her passion, that's her joy. So generally, your content's going to be revolved around something you're at least somewhat interested in, of course. So it's not hard, it's not elusive to get into the flow state. But you can tell you're in it when you just feel really good and happy and upbeat and excited and optimistic and confident. And it's not, we don't always feel that way. But you want to do your best to associate your content creation with that flow state. And then what Aaron said is nice, because our mind always is doubting ourselves. A lot of us have a lot of these nerves getting on YouTube and you know, doing stuff like that. But I don't rely upon the limited, distorted character, Victor, to hold all the weight on his shoulders. I rely on my greater self coming through in the flow state with my content. I've learned that I can more let go, get into the flow, and the magic happens. And everybody has that possibility. And it takes some practice. I'm much better at getting into the flow now. I can do it more easily now than before. Yeah. But certainly I would have that in mind when you're creating your content. Like, okay, let's find the flow state. Let's get into it, and then get into it more and more and more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it makes it so, and the repetition is so powerful, because we've made so many videos now that it's like, get in front of the camera. It's just kind of, even just looking at the camera, it's like the flow state, it's like the trigger. It's like, oh yeah, it's almost ready to go, you know?
Yes.
So it happens with practice. But that's why, this is why, to take care of these first two things, right, that we're sharing with you right now, bang out your first 10 videos. Because when you do that, you start to get more into the feeling, because you can feel how other people feel. So when people feel in their first 10 videos, normally they're feeling a little more cringy. It's not a bad thing. It's just it's new. You're in front of a camera. You're thinking about the other people. So for when it comes to it, get it some under your belt so that you start to become more natural, and then the information will flow easier. Because remember, it's not so much just the content, it's how you feel about the content. That's why we always recommend going more for your passion. Now, the third part that we have has to do with understanding how to have content that actually appeals to the people that are listening to it. Now, the reason this is because you'll notice that in a lot of my videos, I speak about it in the form. In the beginning of my videos, you're hearing me say something that always appeals to the person listening. I say in the beginning of my videos, this video will show you how to align and let go. This video will show you how to let go of negative emotion in the easiest way that I found, and I'll show you 3 ways of doing that. In the very first part, like 5 seconds of the video, you hear 3 ways that you're going to learn how to let go and whatever the topic of the video is, and you're like, oh, this is how this video applies to me. And when you are able to, especially if you're in the business like we are, where we're coaching people or we're helping people, and if you're in something similar, you want to think about it in terms of how will this add value to the people listening. And when you start to language it in that way, it starts to add value in a completely new way, even if it's just beyond YouTube. For example, on Instagram, the videos that I make and the content I make on Instagram, I try to add value in every single post. And because of that, it's growing very quickly. I think a couple months ago, I had like 4,000 or 5,000, I had maybe like 7,000 or 8,000 followers on Instagram, and now I'm right at 30,000 in the last 3 months, because I've been applying this. Add value. Think in terms of what will add value to people. Add value. We talk about it in a lot of our videos, and we probably sound like a broken record about it, but so many people just aren't doing it, and it's the missing key for so many people. So think about it in terms of your passion, that feeling that you have, and how can you add value to other people and language it in a way that they resonate with it. So yeah, is there...
Yeah, I think there was something I was going to say.
A lot of times people, I think we were talking about a minute ago, a lot of times people You're talking about the drawing. People draw.
Yeah, sort
you're
of.
right.
I remember
Yeah.
what it was. It was
Yeah.
related. It's like to really just be considerate of your audience's time and understand that the reality is most people search YouTube in a sense selfishly. Like they want to get
Yeah.
something out of it. And it's right or wrong. I do the same thing. You have to kind of consider that. So I look at it like every moment of their attention I must earn. People aren't going to just tune in to hear Victor just talk about anything. They really need to be benefiting from it. And I really try to have that in mind when I'm coming up with my ideas and so forth. It sounds like an intangible, but it really makes a difference. A lot of people come on and be like, okay, today I feel like talking about this. And I say, okay, well, is that going to work for me? Is that going to benefit me? Is that going to uplift me or help me or motivate me? If I don't get that impression immediately, I'm moving on to a video that will. So you really just want to have that, just to accept the reality that people, you really need to earn their attention and give something of good value. And sometimes that can be stressful because if you're not getting a lot of watch time, you got to kind of go in and say, well, why is that? I would find that in my earlier videos, I would go off on these long tangents that I sounded good, I was in the flow, I impressed myself, but it wasn't really adding value, and people were dropping off, and those videos weren't doing very well, and I had to kind of come back and say, Victor, you got to really stay on track and consider the needs and desires of your audience more, and the more I do that, the more everything grows.
Yeah, and it's funny because eventually, this is especially advice in the beginning, because eventually you might get to the point where people just want more of your personality, and maybe you could share something that doesn't add as much value. But in the beginning especially, you want to be focused on the value, because that's what's going to keep them around. To where now, if we were to go eat somewhere, people would be like, hey, what are you guys eating? What are you doing here? What are you doing that? People are interested in that because we've built that kind of community or that kind of trust and
Yes.
I guess that kind of relationship with people that have watched hundreds of our videos. So it's kind of something to think about in the beginning, especially. You want to think about the feeling that you have underneath what you do. That's the most important thing. You want to focus on not just the content, but how you feel about the content. That's why you want to go for what you're passionate about. Secondly, the flow state, focused on how you can get into a flow state, prime yourself for it before you go to bed at night. Set yourself the intention of knowing what you're going to talk about tomorrow. Start to trust yourself more. And then thirdly, think about it in terms of adding value. What benefits will people get from watching it? Consider their time. And as you do that, what you do is you start to tap into this larger stream of just value that people really perceive of. So something else that we have, if you're interested, is we have training that goes into exactly how you can apply all of this stuff, how we grew on YouTube, how we went full-time doing what we love without having, we've done this since having a much smaller audience. We've also helped a lot of people that had very small audiences go full-time doing what they love. If that's something you're interested in, we have free training that you'll see in the bottom or the top of the description box below, right underneath here. Training that will show you exactly how to do that, how to grow on YouTube, how to go full-time doing what you love. That's something that you can cool.
Startled me.
Yeah, I was like, where'd that
We're
come
like way
from?
up in the mountains right now. You can't tell.
Yeah. But yeah, we're getting ready to go hike down here in a minute. We're getting ready to go eat. We just wanted to share this video with you and hope you got some value from it, and we'll see you on the next vid. Peace, much love, and namaste.